Okay, so I'm driving and this is so good. Oh my gosh. It's so good it's about to cause an accident. No, it isn't. But this is delicious. Man, this is good. So I'm at Dairy Queen and I'm trying their frozen hot chocolate. I saw this on Ghetto Van Adventures, and after seeing on Ghetto Van Adventures, I decided to try one. My voice is a little bit muffled because I still have my mask on, because I'm still in the drive-thru waiting for fries. But yeah, frozen hot chocolate from Dairy Queen. So I'm gonna try it. Ghetto Van Adventures, he said it was good, so. All right, so this frozen hot chocolate, Ghetto Van Adventures, he suggested that, well, he didn't suggest I specifically try it, but he did a review on his channel. It is delicious. It is delicious. Absolutely, positively delicious. I have it here, along with my hand sanitizer. My front is a little of the car, or the van, I guess, is a little bit more junky than it normally is. I try to keep it, looking clean, but man, that frozen hot chocolate from Dairy Queen, delicious. Ghetto Van Adventure, you were right. Hey, so I'm just checking in and letting people know what's going on. I'm still working, telecommuting. Things have changed at my job a bit, where there are a lot of people who are leaving. Some people are quitting voluntarily. There have been quite a few of my coworkers who have been quitting, but they are quitting before they get fired because rules have changed about how the job has to be done, and basically more has to be done with less and in a quicker amount of time. And some of the rules are a bit, for some people, are they're hard to, it's hard to work at that standard. It's almost humanly impossible, actually, some of the things we're being asked to do. And we're being asked to do it in the same amount of time. We're not being given overtime, and so some people aren't meeting the new metrics that have been set, and so a lot of people are losing their jobs because the rules of the game has changed. They're going to be fired because they're not meeting the new metrics, or a lot of them just quit because they felt that they're going to be fired. They didn't feel it, they knew it, so they were given opportunity to quit basically before they were fired. So that's an issue. I've been so far meeting the metrics, but it is difficult, and it just adds more stress to the job. But I am living in a short-term rental right now. I'm sitting in a park right now just because I had to get out and just take a drive. And so I'm not actually anywhere near my normal haunts. I'm in an extremely, extremely, extremely cheap rental that's usually a seasonal rental. I'm not going to go into too much detail about it because Alaska is a small place, and if I give out too many details, you might be able to Google and figure out some things, so I'm not going to say too much. But I will say that it is a seasonal rental. It's something that normally people rent out in the summer. It's sort of like a, so it's not something that's normally occupied during the winter time. So the landlord was happy to let me move in there for the winter. I have to be gone before the tourist season, but that's what I plan to do anyway. And that happens in the spring, because of course when the tourist season comes back, they're going to raise the rent to the high price they normally do. But for the winter, pretty much the guy was just happy to have someone living there, because he doesn't want the place vandalized. So pretty much I'm just sort of almost, I'm only paying like a few $100s, very, very little money. It doesn't have very many amenities, but it does have electricity, and it does have heat. It's heat controlled, and so it's very easy for me. I've set up my little desk, and I have a nice warm place to work, and that was my main consideration about working in the van, because it just would have been too difficult in the wintertime without having, if the coffee shops were open, I would have never moved out of the van, because I lived in the van during the winter before, but the difference was I was at work 8 to 9 hours a day. And before the pandemic, after work I would go somewhere, I'd go to a restaurant and have my dinner, I'd go to the mall, and then by the time I got back to the van, I only had to heat it up for a few hours, and then turn off the heat and bundle up, for bed. So, but being in it all day in the winter, that's just like a lot of fuel. It's a lot of fuel, and it's hard to work. You know, you'd have to be like all bundled up under covers trying to type. And so that's why I needed to get a sticks and bricks for a temporary measure for the winter, just because of the telecommuting situation. And so that's been done. I wanted to talk about something about, speaking of habitations and places that I'm living. I'm living in a seasonal place with very extremely reduced rent, ridiculously low. In fact, my rent is lower than my phone bill. My data plan, almost. That's how low it is. Basically, they just want someone to be there. But speaking of places to live, I thought I would talk about something. When I first started van life, I was researching, and I was looking at different options. I was looking at tiny homes at first, and then I, like many people, and then I ended up finding van life, and then I, car life, and I was like watching Bob Wells' channel, and I was watching so many different channels about nomadic lifestyle, and I really was interested in doing it. At the time, I didn't drive that much, I had a car, and I didn't drive very often, but I had my car, and it was basically parked because I lived in an apartment building, expensive parking building, and we had a parking space that came with our building, and I kept my car parked most of the time. Like, I walked everywhere. I lived downtown, so I walked everywhere. I was able to walk to work. Even when I went to the grocery store, I walked most of the time. In the summer. The only time I really drove my car was in the winter to go to the grocery store, because I'm one person, so it doesn't take me much to get groceries. So so I just enjoy walking. I had a Prius, and that Prius barely got driven, but that's the vehicle I had. And so many people were saying that when you start your nomadic life, you want to start with the vehicle that you have, which I think is sage advice, because especially if you're not sure if you're going to do it. And so as I was researching, I went out and bought some heat shields. They're like Reflectix pretty much, but they make them for your car. And so I bought a bunch of heat shields for my Prius, so I could cover all the windows and everything. And I actually tried out while I was in my apartment. This is when I was just in the discovery phase, just trying to figure out if this is something I was interested in. I actually did do a test run in my Prius. I spent a weekend, and I'm still in my apartment, keep in mind. And, I took my little Reflectix that I got from Heat Shield, and put them up in my vehicle, got my sleeping bag, and I basically spent a weekend in the car. And then that didn't go too well, and I tried to tweak it, and and it didn't work for me. The main reason it didn't work for me, there was a lack of privacy. You're in a fishbowl. So, I get up early, generally speaking, but, I had to wake up early. I had to, because people can see you. And when you put your Reflectix up, people in the vehicle, even though, some of it was blacked out, people know you're sleeping in there. There's no question someone's sleeping in your car when you see the whole car, filled with Reflectix. And so that's why the Prius for me didn't work. Also, I didn't have space in order to sit up and do my hygiene, basically. Like in my van, I can sit up and, wash up, with my, soap and water and whatnot. In the Prius, it was just not enough room to maneuver, just to wash properly, just to put on your pants. It was difficult. And so, I tried it out, though. This is way before the pandemic, and so I just want to talk about why the Prius didn't work for me. There is climate control with the Prius. And the thing about that is it's a hybrid car. So your gas engine kicks on, it charges your battery, and then once the battery's charged, the gas engine kicks off. And so as you're driving, the car is pretty quiet. The older your battery gets, the more the gas engine has to kick on to charge it. And the newer your battery is, your gas engine won't kick on very often. And when you're driving, like if you're coasting downhill a lot, you might not even have the gas engine kick on at all, because, as the wheels are turning, it charges the battery. And so when you're using climate control, you can park your Prius and just have the air conditioning on, or have the heat on. It is pretty quiet, but when that engine kicks up, to charge the battery, people might notice. It's like you're starting your car, and then the engine, turns off, and then it's quiet for a while, and everything's running on the battery. And then, if you're using heat, the engine's going to kick on periodically. And so I was liking that feature about the climate control in the Prius, but it's not stealth. And most of my nomadic lifestyles in an urban environment. And so that was another reason why the Prius did not work for me, for that reason also. And I tried it out for a little bit. It wasn't like a long-term thing. I just took weekends off and you know, and tried to camp out in it around the city. And I didn't get a knock on my window or anything, but I got up extremely early when I was doing my test run. And I went to bed extremely late because I was waiting for it to get dark enough so I wouldn't be noticed. And that's another thing too. I wasn't getting my proper rest. I was tired. Because I had to get up because I'm in a fishbowl. People can see you, and I didn't want any issues. So I tried that out, and I realized the Prius wasn't going to work for me, and that's what ultimately led me to get my van. That's why I got my Nissan NV200. This van is perfect because it's privacy. That's the main big difference between my Prius and my van, is that there is an element of privacy. When I park this van on the side, you know, of the street, just normal street parking, people don't necessarily know someone's in it. You know, I could sleep all day if I wanted to. I can sleep late if I wanted to. I don't generally sleep too late, but there have been some days when I've been tired and I've slept in a little bit later than normal, and it's easy to do that. Even if I want to take a nap in the middle of the afternoon, I could do that. No one can tell if someone's in here. You know, they just see a van and it's, you know, just a white, well, oh gosh, I gave away the color of my van. Yeah, anyway, it's just a van like any other van. And so people, you know, don't see it as being, you know, something that's necessarily occupied. There's much more privacy. There's much more room to maneuver. I can very easily take care of hygiene. It's easy to dress, you know, it's easy, you know, so I like the space is a big thing. But the main reason why I did not go with my Prius was just because of the lack of privacy. It was like being in a fishbowl, and that's why it didn't work for me. And so I sold my Prius and I bought the van for my nomadic lifestyle, and I don't regret it at all. And that's another thing too, with this small compact van, I knew that even if I didn't like the nomadic lifestyle, it's so small, it's a good daily driver. It's a great daily driver. So, you know, even now where, you know, I'm staying in a short-term rental, it's not like I'm using up a whole bunch of gas with some huge big Sprinter van or something, you know what I mean? It's still a good commuter, and, you know, I'm still using it as my daily driver. And yeah, so I still spend time in it. As you can see now, I'm just sitting in a park, you know, just spending time, even though I have a short-term rental. So I just wanted to make this video and give you an update. And I also wanted to, you know, just give a little perspective as to why the Prius didn't work for me. Now, keep in mind, I did not like long-term stay in the Prius. This is when I was in the beginning stages of starting out with the nomadic life, but I did do a lot of trial runs with it, and I could see it didn't work for me. A lot of people, they love the Prius. It works well for them. To be quite honest with you, without getting too detailed, I think a Prius would work better for a guy than a gal, because if you have to get up in the middle of the night to, you know, to pee, you know, a guy can just get a bottle and, you know, take care of business. And us ladies, we have to, you know, it's not, you know, there's no good way to do that in a car. So you'd have to go to a gas station or squat behind a bush somewhere. And, you know, that's another thing with my van. That's not an issue. You know, if I needed to do that in the middle of the night, I could do that without having to get out of my van, you know. So that's another thing, you know, another aspect of it. I think it's better for men, you know. I think it would be just because of that aspect. So that's my wrap up, why I don't live in a Prius. And I hope everyone's staying safe, and I hope that you know, this crazy times we're living in, I hope it changes so that we can go back to normal soon. Bye.